Tonight, the company behind the state's solar thermal project reaches an agreement with native title holders. And a soldier laid to rest in Port Pirie receives the recognition his gravesite deserves.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. The developer of Port Augusta's solar thermal power plant has signed a heritage agreement with Bangala native title holders. SolarReserve says the partnership means the Aurora development will have the least impact on Aboriginal heritage land.
It's an important step in preserving traditional land. Under what will soon be the world's largest solar thermal power station lies heritage land invaluable to Bangala native title holders.
As part of that, developing a project of this sort of scale, we try and identify who the key stakeholders are in developing the project, and we observed early on that the Bangala were a key stakeholder in the project.
In the beginning stages of developing the Aurora project, the company behind it has signed an agreement with native title holders in the hopes of working together.
And it is an issue. We're dealing with large areas of space, large areas of land, ancient history, eternal connection to country, and it's appropriate that Bangala have good legal advice to make sure that they can get agreements which do help protect that heritage.
In the last week, SolarReserve has completed an on-the-ground survey of the area with the Bangala Determination Aboriginal Corporation to identify areas which must be preserved.
And one of the things which happens with these large projects is that they disturb a large amount of earth, they cover large areas, and so it's really important that industry understand that in doing so, they may affect heritage, and Bangala want to make sure that their heritage is both monitored and where possible protected.
SolarReserve says it made changes to move the power plant further south to protect heritage land.
About 900 metres we moved south, so still within the same area but just a little further south.
They've located the best way of putting the infrastructure on the ground so that it minimises any heritage impact. And SolarReserve will continue to work with Bangala on a practical level to make sure that as they develop their heliostat field and develop their infrastructure corridors, that Bangala can monitor the effects on heritage and hopefully completely minimise them.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
A fire has destroyed a house in Broken Hill, prompting a warning from authorities on proper fire safety precautions. Investigations are still continuing into the blaze's cause.
It's a start to the weekend that nobody wants.
The fire was quite intense.
Firefighters rushed to the Mercury Street rental home just after 8 o'clock Friday night to find the property fully alight. It took crews over half an hour to extinguish the blaze as smoke billowed from the scene.
At this stage, the cause of the fire has not been determined. A forensic investigation is being conducted by the New South Wales Police Forensic Service Group and the New South Wales Fire and Rescue investigators as well.
The two neighbouring homes also suffered some damage in the inferno. Ashley Reid was driving home with his girlfriend when he spotted the smoke, using a garden hose to protect a neighbouring house.
I said to my girlfriend, I said, well, go and have a look at this. I said, it's close to your mum and dad's. And as we drove up the street, we thought it was their house, and then we realised it was next door's. I had to keep running away from the fence, but I wanted to keep their house cool, and yeah, it was pretty scary.
The occupants were home at the time, but luckily they escaped without major injury. The 59-year-old woman and 21-year-old man were later treated for shock and smoke inhalation. Police say it's a timely reminder for locals about the importance of having working smoke alarms installed, especially as the warmer weather approaches.
To test that device regularly and change the batteries, and it's also important in an emergency to have an emergency evacuation plan for your house.
The cause is yet to be determined. Damage is estimated at $200,000. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
The first World War I soldier to be identified and honoured in South Australia has been laid to rest in an unmarked grave at the Port Pirie Cemetery for years until now. This weekend, as part of Remembrance Day commemorations, a ceremony will be held unveiling the newly marked headstone.
Archibald John Kenneth McVicker, a South Australian World War I soldier who has been lying in an unmarked grave since 1941. But that's all set to change.
Part of the machine gun company. So he's unmarked grave, first one in South Australia.
Putting the family's welfare first, his wife used the money to put a deposit down on a home instead of purchasing his memorial. His family unable to find where he's buried until now.
At least now there's somewhere, if people want to come, they can come and have a look.
Family members have been left overwhelmed that Mr McVicker's grave has now been identified.
It's probably a tad emotional, a little bit emotional.
With over 20 other unmarked graves resting in the Port Pirie Cemetery, a ceremony will be held this Remembrance Day honouring the locals who fell at war.
That Remembrance Day, remember those who are part of the Australian tradition, made the Australian tradition.
You couldn't probably ask for a better day than Remembrance Day, and on a Saturday, so that everyone can come. It's sort of just it all fell into place.
The unveiling of Mr McVicker's headstone will take place on Saturday afternoon. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Stay with us. In the news ahead, is a duplication of the Joy-Baluke Bridge on the cards? We'll have the details next. Duplication of the Joy-Baluke Bridge has been included in the state government's latest infrastructure wish list. The minister says the government will also examine repairing transport routes in our region. Amelia Simpson has more.
After the Federal Infrastructure Minister walked precariously on Port Augusta's Joy-Baluke Bridge last week, the state government has announced it's including the duplication of the Joy-Baluke Bridge on a to-do list of infrastructure priorities it plans to submit to the federal government. As well as improving access to the state's north and west, Transport and Infrastructure Minister Stephen Mulligan has mentioned the need for sealing the Strzelecki track, upgrading Yorkeys Crossing and even upgrading roads between Adelaide and Port Augusta. He says the state government plans to invest $9.5 billion in infrastructure over the next 4 years. Yet the local member for Stewart says a wish list isn't enough.
To keep putting these projects onto their wish list, the state government must put these projects onto their to-do list.
Infrastructure Australia is preparing to publish a new priority list in February, and the state government says it will nominate these regional projects.
What I think is important to understand is that the state government can put as much as it wants in a wish list to the federal government, but until the state government actually puts an offer of contributing funds towards the project, Infrastructure SA cannot actually respond. It's just the way it's set up.
The state government says it's ready to partner with the federal government in delivering these upgrades, repairs and even duplication of the Joy-Baluke Bridge. But as for a timeline for the 2018 infrastructure priority list, that remains unclear.
Amelia Simpson reporting. Flinders Power has announced it's preparing to demolish the Port Augusta Power Station's giant northern boilers. The two 10,000-tonne structures on the former Alinta site are set to be charge-felled this Thursday at 9 a.m. The company will implement land and sea exclusion zones on the day, and residents are being told to expect to hear explosions and to see coal dust during and after the event. Port Augusta's Shack Road has been designated as a public viewing area. Preparations for Port Pirie's annual Christmas pageant are running full steam ahead. Locals are being called upon to help spread the festive cheer to help make sure Father Christmas arrives on time.
It's not long before Santa will be delivering presents across the region. His little helpers have been busy making sure the man in red is ready to fly from the cold snow of the North Pole to the sun and warmth of Port Pirie's summer. The sleigh looks completely different this year, with tools to help him deliver presents on time this Christmas Eve.
December 2nd is the Christmas pageant, and preparations are underway for a bigger and better event. And one of the bigger items that we're doing is a sprucing up of the sleigh.
His sleigh will visit Port Pirie for the return of the Twilight Pageant, following the success of last year's parade with more than 60 floats taking part. Thousands of people are expected to fill the streets to catch a glimpse of the man of the hour.
This year's pageant festivities will kick off with a party in Memorial Park, showcasing some of the region's best produce. The pageant committee is calling for locals to get amongst the magic by registering a stall or a float, or to even become a Christmas pageant clown.
Anyone with an inner child who wants to have a bit of fun, get out there, give some lollies out, make kids smile, you can register online as well.
You can register online or visit the Tourism and Arts Centre in Port Pirie for more information. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
After the break on Southern Cross News, Walla High students take to the stage for the school's annual musical. All the Colour next. A Victorian sculptor who's paid Broken Hill a visit says he's already got plans to come back to the town. Isaac Greener completed his unique artwork just out of town before taking the unusual step of lighting a match and burning his hard work down.
From dusk till dawn, from sculpture to ash.
It was a really, I don't know what the right word is, it was a really powerful experience being out there, being out in the desert.
Broken Hill is no stranger to kooky and crazy art, but this is one of the more obscure pieces the region's ever seen. Set amongst the picturesque landscape of Sunnydale Station, the sculptor constructed a massive white wall which could be seen from miles away. A projector turned the white into brick, bringing back memories from his childhood.
Pink Floyd's a bit of an inspiration, and that idea of the wall, and it's actually an emotional wall, it's not even a physical barrier. So it was kind of existing between worlds, between something physical and something emotional.
Isaac then walked around the wall for 10 straight hours in the chilly conditions of the desert, in what he's described as a special ritual.
Yeah, it was a ritual, and for me it was very important that the ritual ended. It began with a ringing of a bell, it ended with the ringing of a bell, and it culminated in the burning of the wall.
As sun came over the horizon, Isaac ended his project by lighting the wall on fire and watching it disintegrate.
Just to be able to be out there, and it's pretty special, and yeah, I'll definitely be back. I've actually got another project in the pipeline, and yeah, just looking forward to the next time.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Students from Walla High have wrapped up their performance of Little Mermaid the musical over the weekend. Both students and teachers say they're glad to have finally performed after a gruelling year of preparation.
Dinner was on the menu, but the main course at Walla High was on stage. A week of performances and a tireless year of rehearsals came to an end on Friday night.
The help from everyone around you really gives you more confidence to be able to do what you do.
Getting to play Sebastian was just so fun because I got to put on an accent and do over-the-top expressions.
It took more than 20 staff and students to recreate the historic fairy tale, from actors right through to set designs and catering. Director Emma Hunter says everyone was hitting the right notes come showtime.
They're just a group of kids that love drama, and they hang out in their holidays, and they ask me for extra rehearsals.
However, there were challenges. Larissa Durden was tapped on the shoulder to play male character Prince Eric, which forced her to restyle her voice.
I worked a lot with Miss Hunter, and she helped me, and I just had to keep listening to the soundtrack over and over.
For the trio, it's their last musical before moving to Air High next year, but they're keen to continue performing.
To see everyone enjoy it, and even the audience always laughing, seeing their reactions, it's really great.
Definitely like to continue in theatre and musical arts and stuff after school.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Turning to cricket now, and North Walla remains at the top of the town's cricket ladder after a comfortable win over South on Saturday. Batting first, North was all out for 167 before its bowlers tore through Souths. John Hunt joins us with the results, and John, the Magpies are looking strong this season.
They are, Fraser. North were made to earn their 167 with some good bowling from South, keeping the target below 200. But their bowlers were up for the challenge, with a solid contribution by O helping skittle the Demons. North suffered an early blow with opener Matt Quist out cheaply for 14 early in the contest. They managed to recover to be 4 for 113 at one stage, before Blake Turner Weebreak found his range. He took 4 late wickets as North collapsed to be all out for 167, a gettable target in 50 over cricket. However, North bowlers are regarded as the best in town for a reason, as they shut out the Demons with wickets at regular intervals. Matt Quist put aside his early dismissal to lead the bowling attack, taking 3 3 for 20 from 9 overs as they recorded a 71-run win. In the other Walla match, Central's easily accounted for Rapina by 10 wickets. Veteran Brad Smith led the way, taking 4 for 17. In Port Pirie, props cruised to a big win over Southport, while 5 wickets from Patrick McNamara guided Wandera to a big win over Sollies. Up in Port Augusta, Central Stirling were too good for Westies, while Southies had a 74-run win over Quorn. Greg Shirley led the way for South with 53 and 4 for 18. Down the highway in Port Lincoln, 96 from Jacob Watson helped Southern Air to a big win over Lincoln South. Todd River had a 51-run win over Waybacks, while Tasman held their nerve in the final over to record a narrow 2-wicket win over Charlton. And in Broken Hill, it was 2020 cricket, with Centrals chasing South down by 5 wickets in 11 overs, while West had a 5-wicket win over North. So, Fraser, the cricket is heating up across the region as we head into the warmer weather. Cricket isn't the only sport happening across the region this summer, and I'll have those results tomorrow night.
Thanks, John. John Hunt in Whyalla there. Well, stay with us. After the break, I'll have all your local weather details. Welcome back to the weather now. A lovely day across the region with plenty of blue sky on offer, reaching a top of 25 degrees in Port Augusta, cooler in Whyalla and Port Lincoln, 20 degrees the max there. Starting to push up again after a mild week in Port Pirie though for 25. Fine in Adelaide, 21. Looking at the satellite, clouds streaming across the central east and southeast with a trough is bringing showers and isolated storms. On the Gulf waters, winds will be southeasterly before shifting southwesterly up to 25 knots. Seas will be around 2 metres with a south-southwesterly swell. Sunrise at 6:15, sunset pushing 8 o'clock. Nice weather continuing tomorrow, a top of 25 expected in Port Augusta and Port Pirie. Still a far cry from summer temps in Port Lincoln though, a top of 19, a maximum of 26 on the way for Woodner, 22 in Adelaide. Looking ahead, Port Lincoln will see plenty of sunshine heading for 29 by the end of the week. Starting to see some warmer weather come through by the end of the week in Cleve and Woodner though, reaching 35 Friday. In Whyalla, it's looking like it'll be warm as well, seeing the mercury sitting around the high 20s for the next few days. A similar outlook in Port Augusta and Kadina as well. And finally, plenty of sunshine in Port Pirie for 25 on Wednesday. It'll keep climbing 30 degrees, the max on Friday. A bit of cloud about in Clare, but it'll clear. And in for a fine Friday on the way in Broken Hill for 31. And that is Southern Cross News this Monday. Thanks for your company. I'll have some updates for you a little later on. Until then, have a wonderful evening. Good night.